Hello again and welcome to the Blink podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by my good friend Darren Pratley, and this episode is all about the winter blues, your mid-year business health check. 5 steps to make sure that between now and the end of the year is going to be one of your best yet. Despite all the doom and gloom the world's talking about, we've got you covered. Welcome back to the Blink podcast. I'm Jonathan Creek, one of your hosts, and joining me all the way from the other side of the ditch is Darren Pratley, business coach extraordinaire, hype man for the best in the business. Darren, we are in the depths of winter. Although the days are starting to get a little bit longer, there's hope. It's a good time for a mid-season winter blues check-in and see if people's businesses are on track leading into Christmas, right?
Mate, I'm seeing winter blues everywhere. Like, I'm just starting to feel that, there's quite a few people out there really struggling with, the challenges of winter. The markets have changed. The builder isn't turning up on time. The dishes are piling up on the bench, and the kids have still got to go to school in the rain. It's tough, challenging times, man. And I think today one of the things we've got to bring is a whole pile of energy, because this is what we need to be thinking about, and we need to be coming up with some good plans to get ourselves through these challenging times.
How bad does the narrative of the world, the media, the voice of the world, how bad do they want to paint it out to be?
Oh, my goodness.
The doom and gloom that they're coming out with at the moment it's almost irresponsible when you think about, they're pushing, there's always ads on TV and newspapers about mental health and we've got to look after ourselves, and then the very next thing is record inflation, kids aren't going to be able to afford houses, interest rates are going up, no one's got any money. Well, you know what, the head of the ANZ Bank, which is topical because we're an Australian New Zealand podcast, the head of the ANZ Bank came out yesterday in Melbourne and said people have actually got more money in Australia than they've ever had. And so the usual attempts to bring down inflation, which is the lever is interest rates, it's not working. So they're being told that it's about inflation, and Australians are still going out and spending. They're going to the ritzy restaurants, they're buying the clothes that they want. They're on a spending frenzy over here, and they're sad about it, which doesn't make sense. So it's a really complex time, and I think a really good time for you and I to give our listeners, the loyal listeners of this great podcast, Blink, which is about episode 12 or 13, I think, just a check-in. Let's give them a little bit of a reality check, a little click behind the ear if they need it, a little bit of, I don't know, honey on the teaspoon to have their medicine if they need that. I don't know. A bit of love, a bit of motivation. Let's give it to them.
And I think that's what it's about, mate, right? And I think just overlaying, before we get stuck into that list, is just to be thinking about mindset, right? Because I'm just going at the moment, there is not a lot of self-setting of the mindset, right? So the concept about self-setting your mindset, being resilient. Everyone talks about being resilient. I want to be resilient. I want to be resilient. So what is your resilience plan? What is your structure to be more resilient? What is the things that we need to be doing to make sure that our mindset is strong and clear? Because most of the time people talk it, but don't realize that you have to actually put some clear principles in place. So I think what we're going to talk about today is really, really important at the moment, and we've got to start taking a bit of responsibility for ourselves, that we've got to start thinking and believing and heading our businesses in the direction that we really want to go, and stop accepting the result. Because my view is, if you don't set a plan to where you want to go, you'll get a result that the market will give you. And I just don't think that market will look after you.
Yeah, and I also think it's really, I think it's important at this point to note that we're not infallible either.
No.
I was a bit wonky last week. I was a bit down on things. I let the commentary get into my head a little bit. A couple of things didn't go my way. They weren't major catastrophes, but my brain or my mindset was like, oh, just another brick in the wall, just locking ourselves in here. We're never gonna get out of this COVID disaster.
Yep.
I think you'll be willing to admit that a couple of weeks ago you had a couple of days where it was just like,
And that was the piece, and for me, like, as soon as I get I get challenged or I get a bit down on it, the first thing I do is go straight back to your business plan. Go straight back to it. Go and have a look at the first page, which is your vision for why you do what you do. Because if that vision ain't strong enough, if that vision isn't driving you to where you want to go, then either change it or go and get another job. That one that does motivate you, because the clarity of clear vision of why I do what I do, which gets me up every day when things are tough and keeps me going. So if I'm starting to get down on it, I'll go, well, God, let's go back to that vision again. What is that all about? Why am I doing what I do? And what are the things that we need to be focusing on here? And I think that's a good starting point for us to be thinking about, is just make sure you've got that clarity of vision that drives you and motivates you to be what you want to be. Because if that's not good, the market will pull you and drag you down, and people's opinions, and I think, and I'm just going to make this point for you right now, because this is one that it really annoys me, is that I have a lot of people sometimes in our space that start telling us what to do or how to do it, but actually when you look behind the scenes, they're not even doing it themselves, right? So this whole mental state of being I've got good clarity, I've got a plan, and I'm listening to people that are actually doing it and getting the results, because if I follow what they're saying and what they're doing, I'm going to be successful, right? And then that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that is interesting, because in my funk last week, I stopped making content. And I'm a content guy. And so I think I annoyed you with that, is that I went a little bit into my shell, and I just wasn't committing. I just wasn't holding myself accountable. And I think that's okay. I think,
No, it's not okay. When is it ever okay to not hold yourself accountable? Come on.
No, well, I think it's okay as long as you recognize it fast enough and use it to motivate yourself forward. You're not going to be up and about every day. Like, look at you when you came back from your little Fiji holiday. You were so sad because you didn't book it long enough. It was too short.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have these moments, and I think what these tougher times, or times with tougher commentary.
Yep.
Right, it's a tougher environment. I think a lot of it's commentary made, particularly a lot of the. But we always talk real estate because it's two areas that we both love. I've got real estate agents that are still doing fantastic numbers like they were doing last year. They've just had to work a little bit harder for it. So the bottom line's the same. It's just not as easy. So, so when we look at that, they get a bit down on that sort of stuff. And sorry, Mrs. Creek's calling. Of course she is. See you later. I'm on the podcast. Call you later. So I think it's natural to go up and down. I think what these tougher times, or tougher commentary times, are doing is it's sorting out the people who've been on the honeymoon, work for myself, solopreneur, startup, junket, got a sniff of a business but not quite really a business, but I'm making money out of 4 or 5 different things, and a couple of jobs here and there still fall in my lap. And those jobs are no longer falling in the lap.
Yep.
All right. And so all of a sudden things are tightening up. Things are it's not as fun as it used to be. I'm not sure if I want to do this. And we get back to that episode from episode 8 or 9, right? About macro decisions.
Yep.
How quick are you?
Got it.
Macros.
Yep.
And last week I was having the macros. LinkedIn was sending me referrals for great jobs, and there are some great jobs around at the moment. There's a skills shortage. There's great jobs around at the moment.
Oh,
but
stop it.
As you say, would you rather get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and work on your own business, or get on a public transport and go and work for someone else?
Yeah.
And that's what always haunts me, is like, do I really, really want another boss?
So let me just explain this one for you, because this is the one I've been using a lot lately. That I reckon over the last 2.5 years, I've seen a lot of businesses that have been driven based on market activity. So the market activity has driven their business. And what I have felt is that people have got out of the habit of actually driving their business. So being the CEO of their business, driving the activity, making the departments within your business more accountable. I mean, I had 3 or 4 conversations today with business owners today. And what's the number one thing? Geez, Darren, I just have to have some more honest conversations with my team. I have to have more conversations with the people who run my business so that they follow my vision and where I want it to go. So I need to be clearer and have better conversations with people. And I think at the moment, as business owners, we've got to start realizing that we can't rely on the market to drive our activity. We've got to be the people that really create our businesses to build that momentum and build that activity that gets us the success we need.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And then, if you are in that, if you are in that, if you don't have that clarity or that desire,
Oh,
your front page, you'll come up with every excuse not to take the action. And we get to that later.
497 of them.
497, maybe 498, given the current environment, but somewhere around that. So let's get on to point one, Darren. Point one, I think, is pretty important in the business check. I think this is what we're seeing nowadays in the world. We've seen a shift, particularly in digital marketing, and that's where a lot of people are sort of focusing nowadays. It's an add-on. It's not an if or but. It's a complementary thing. I'm a social digital guy, but I'm not that silly to say this is the only thing you need to be doing. But there's been a massive shift in that area, and that is that you have to build your audience. You can't buy it anymore. Apple and Google have made big steps in the last 6 months, and they've made it really, really clear that it's going to be easy for users of phones to turn off tracking, to turn off cookies, to turn off all the things that marketers like me loved and used to be able to buy audiences. And by that, you spend a bit of money and you can reach the people that you need when you need to reach them. That's not the case anymore. You got to build it. And so how do you build it? You got to start creating content that's human and connects. It's not rocket surgery, right? This has been around for a while. Now you got to do it on social media because you can't rely on paying anymore.
Yep, love it. And that's what we hear all the time, right? Oh, how can I buy that? Can I buy a database? Can I buy this? Can I buy that? Can I get, more views? Can I get more clicks? Can I buy that? No, you can't. You've actually got to be out there doing it and actually use that organic growth that we know is actually the sticky, valuable audience you need.
Yeah. And, and it almost future-proofs you in a sense.
Yep.
If you can build your own audience, you can nurture them, you keep monitoring them for ideas, for what they need next, for how your business is going to develop and grow. I mean, that's how your business should be. I mean, there's this great, I think, misnomer in the world that you come up with a great idea and build it and they'll come, right? That's the saying. The world now, I think, is so different because there's so much information out there. We've got so much data. We've got so much understanding of the needs and wants and desires of our audience, is that once you have a following, it's okay. You've served them with that. Now what next? How can I build on it? How can I progress it? How can I move it forward and keep helping them because they already trust me because I did a good job the first time. They're still hanging around. That's a much easier sale. That's a much easier business model than coming up with another out-of-the-box brilliant idea and executing on it.
Yeah, love it.
Just keep evolving. That's what I
love
reckon.
it.
Keep evolving.
No, that's smart. And mate, the bit that you are really good at is helping people really get a clear understanding of what their message needs to be to create that audience. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of people have at the moment, is that they know they need to build this audience, but they don't know what to say to them. They don't know how to get that engagement. They don't know how to bring them closer in the conversation. And I think that's something that, with a little bit of support and a bit of help, that people can really start to build that audience very, very cleverly.
Yeah, I think probably if I was to give anyone a piece of advice is, I say it to real estate agents all the time, just stop being a real estate agent.
Yeah, that's it.
Stop being a car salesperson.
Yeah, love it.
Human. Be human.
Well
and that
done,
gets
mate.
us to the next bit, right? Number 2. Point number 2, Darren?
It's all about being face-to-face. So one of the challenges that I have at the moment, as I'm seeing with this market change, that everybody is looking more into their environments, the complexities, the household budget, the what should I buy, why should I buy it, should I wait, should I do it now? And there's a lot more complexity to the decision-making process. And what I'm encouraging people to think about now is to have a better conversation and to have a deeper conversation about showing people, giving them better advice, is you've got to get face to face with more people. And this whole adage, I used to push, well, I still push really, really consistently. You do 10 calls a day, make those consistent calls because that'll build your business. But for me, actually, now off the 10 calls, I want you to try and do 2 active face-to-face meetings off the back of that, because what I've realized now is those one-on-one or face-to-face conversations actually lets you have deeper conversations to show how you can create value or support, or ultimately understand the client's perspective and position a lot more. So once you get a clear understanding of where they're at, what they're wanting to do, it is so much easier for us then to be able to create a solution. But if you're trying to do that over a text message or an email or just a phone call, I think that's you're not getting those deeper conversations that you really need. So I just really encouraging people right now is just to get face to face a lot more.
Well, what I find really interesting around face to face is the influence of the environment on the actual conversation you have. So if you're text to text, you're in your own environment, they're in their own bubble. Writing and texting is actually laborious, like it's a task.
Yep.
Right? Where a conversation, you can drop 3 words a second, or faster in some cases, like yours, that way. So you can transfer a lot more information a lot quicker, and you can also read and respond to body language.
Yep.
So you can understand, it's a data grab. It's the original data farming process is a face-to-face conversation. So if we go back to step 1, it's like you can't buy your audience anymore. You've got to build it. And to build it, you've got to have a better understanding of your client. Then there's no better way to better understand your client than to sit face-to-face with them and ask them the questions. How can I help you? If I was to do this, what would happen? If I was to offer this product, what would happen?
Here's the trick.
What's your pain?
Here's the trick. Grab your diary out right now and flick through the last 4 weeks and have a look each day. How many times you had at least 2 face-to-face meetings with clients or referral sources?
Yep.
Right. And this is the bit that I have a chuckle with is people go to me, oh, Darren, face-to-face is so important. You've got to do those. And I go, great, let's get your diary out and see how many you've been doing. And what do I always see?
Blank pages.
White space in their diary. And I'm going, you didn't meet anyone here. You didn't meet anyone here. Like seriously, what did you use that time for? And do you know what they say to me? I'm not sure. I don't know. So I just say now, get face-to-face with more clients, get face-to-face, have good conversations with them, and you watch what changes, because the customer will actually start to see you as someone they can trust. They'll have more open conversations with you, and now you can start to see how your service product can actually help them. And if you can't, you'll probably know someone you can refer them to that can. So this is the part for me, face-to-face conversations now, just we've got to get back to that.
I also think there's been I think we're not going to cut people slack here, but I think there has to be a recognition that in both New Zealand and Australia, lockdown laws were pretty tough.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
And people were encouraged not to mix. Even now, like this week, we've had our state government, the great Lockdown Dan, Chairman Dan as they call him. He wants us locked down again. He wants, he's handing out 3 million free masks. He wants people movement restricted. Don't go and see anyone unless you have to. Keep your kids home from school, work from home. I think, there was a research study that came out today that says that Melbourne's city office space currently is less than 30% being used. So less than 30% of the workforce is back in the office in the city. Now in Sydney, that number is up. Look at this camera drifting. In Sydney, that number is around, for comparison, around 50%.
Wow.
And only ever gets to about 75% even pre-pandemic. So you can just see how much some areas, geographical spaces that have been hit with COVID have actually been training people for 2 years not to meet face-to-face.
Yep. 100%.
So you've really got to be aware of that, and you've really got to force yourself to do it.
And this is the part, right? Think about businesses that have all been working from home, right? The ability to get your team together, get them into the office, get them back engaged, get them back face to face again, just changes the energy and changes the environment. And I know it's tough, and yes, there's lots of reasons why and why not, and I get all that, I totally do. But what we are starting to see is the result of not being as connected as we should be. And yes, we're better on Zoom, we're better on connecting, electronically, but boy, oh boy, we need to get back into the offices. We need to get those face-to-face meetings happening again. I've got one of my companies have just had a real push on creating client functions again. So actually creating a client function, inviting people to go to it. You ever think about it, over the last 2.5 years, how many client functions have we been to? Hardly any, because basically they've been taken off the radar. So for the ability to be able to create some events, some customer functions where you get people to actually turn up and actually have some face-to-face conversations I know it just is amazing, but it's actually a new reality for us to get those going again.
Yeah, you still won't get me in a lift, but you still won't get me in a lift with other people. But
Oh,
I am warming myself to mixing with the great unwashed again.
seriously, I'm not sure I've got my violin in the office today.
No, 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 no. Look, it's been a
Number three.
thing. Number three, we move on. We move on.
What's
Number
number
three,
three?
no, number one. Hold on. Number three is clarity of offer. Now,
What's that all about?
this is really, really important because a lot of the times when people like you and I, Darren, talk about you've got to be really clear on your offer. You've got to be really clear on what it is that you're taking to the market. 90% of the people I talk to about this, and I talk about brand story clarity.
Yep.
90% of the people think about this the wrong way. And that's the biggest problem. They think about what is it that they understand as being clear and taking it to the market, when actually it doesn't matter what you understand as being clear. The actually only scale of measurement is how does your client understand the offer? Are they clear on it? So don't worry about how you understand your own work. How does your client understand it? And I've got a little trick that I do, or not a trick, or an exercise that I take people through. And it's like, if there were two people who are your ideal clients, one of them's your ideal client and one of them's got similar data set. They're sitting there having a coffee. Could the person who knows about you clearly, so this camera's drawing mad, could the person who knows about you clearly communicate to the other person not only what you do, but why you do it?
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
If they can't, then the offer that you've communicated isn't clear enough.
Love it. Love it.
Right?
Love it.
Look at you. You're thinking about it. It's ticking.
I am, because I'm going here in my head. I'm thinking to myself, this is the path that I reckon most businesses get really strung out on and caught up in, right? Because what they do is they go, I've created a product or a service, and this is what we think will be valuable to the customer. And the challenge to that is that's why they communicate it, right? Mm-hmm. That's the way they communicate it. I've got a product, and this is what it does, right? The first thing you've got to actually think about is what value does that product create for the customer? So what is the benefits? What does the customer get from using your product? What are the challenges that they have in their environment right now that your product or service will help and remove or make easier or make better or whatever it is? And I just think right now, when you look at the last 2.5 years of us all being put into the environments we have, and there's been a lot of smoke and mirrors in terms of what we can do and keep our businesses going. I just think now we've got to come back to going, actually get a clarity of offer, but from the customer's perspective.
Yeah, and there's also a thought pattern in the customer now, where they're like, but why are they doing it?
Love it. Yep.
Now, whether that's, I don't think it's quite mistrust, but there's almost a social awareness.
Yep.
What's in it for them? And that's part of the calculation on whether it's a good deal or not.
Isn't that natural for all of us?
Natural. It is instinctive.
Yep.
And so that's what you've got to really work on. So coming out of the winter blues, You've had to pivot and shift and tweak and redesign and all that sort of stuff. And when
And
you
you
do
realize,
that, it's probably
yep,
easy to become messy in your offer and
yep,
not very clear. So focus back. If things aren't going the way that they were, or you're just struggling with things, you're missing out on deals that you thought you were doing really well, or you're not getting the referrals. I think that's a big
yep,
part of business, right? Referrals. If your
yep,
referrals dry up, it's pretty much, I reckon, because of this, because other people aren't good enough at explaining
yep.
to similar data sets, similar humans, not only what you do, but why you do it.
Yeah, I love it. Yep, that's correct. That's bang on. Yep, very cool,
All
mate.
right. Number 4, Darren, this is a favourite of mine. It is about mindset, and it is about putting on the helmet of a wartime general. You really
Tell me,
are.
what's
Well,
it all about, man? Tell me about this.
we're in a battleground.
Yeah,
We're in an era. This is an era that I consider it's an era of misinformation, and
yeah,
it's not just happening at a political level. It's happening across all the platforms that we spend most of our time focusing on. Our
yep,
attention, the attention graph on devices and platforms, it doesn't matter whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, it doesn't matter. The height and hype around misinformation, people basically engineering their own truths and then now marketing off the back of it because they believe their own truths. You have
yep,
to put on a helmet like a wartime general and say, you know what? Times are a bit messier than they were 2 years ago. Things have changed. Market's shifted. The market's not driving the activity anymore. I've got to dig in,
yep,
right? So this just, if you're the CEO of your own business, if you run your own business or you run your own team inside a business, you got to shift your mindset to you got to shift your mindset away from this is how we do things to we're in a battle and we've got to fight strategically to succeed. Because if we're not strategic about what we do, we're going to take some losses, and too many losses in a row, you could lose the war.
yep. Love it. You see, this is the part. You see where I go with this one is, and this is where it comes back to that mindset, right? So mindset is about having the clarity of where you're going and why you're going there. Having a look at the marketplace, having a look at the battlefield, getting some clarity about where you need to go and why you need to go there, and get really clear on why you're going there. Because as soon as you do that, you start to really realize what resource you need, what people you need, how are we going to get across this ground, who are we going to need to talk to we're going to have conversations with, who's going to have to see our proposals, right? So what we're really wanting to make sure is that you've got that mindset. And I think your line of wartime general is actually very clever because actually that's what it needs is if you're in an army and the general's saying to you, well, we could go left, we could go right,
Yeah.
have you got enough bullets? I'm just not sure. What do you guys think we should do this or not? I'm not sure. If you're seriously in that army, man, your clarity of task is going to go, well, let's just retreat, shall we? Because there's no clarity in where we're going.
Well, that's the thing, right? I always think in movies. Like in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking of movies here. So if you think of a wartime general,
Yeah,
yeah, in classic movies, and go back to the Civil War, whatever was going on, right? They got a table, they've got a map of the landscape,
yeah,
they've got things that they push around. We need some tanks over there to put in some heavy artillery. We've got our ground forces here. So here are our resources. Here's the landscape. We need to get over there. We need to remove the enemy from these areas in order to get to that. Right? So how do we get... We know that we want to get from here to there. We want to go take that town, or we want to go take that ridge or that hill. Right? This is what we've got in our pocket. This is the landscape. How do we best deploy it?
love it.
And that's all
And that's what,
strategic.
that's
It's
what
all strategic planning, right?
but this is what this market needs right now. And you've got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to set the mindset, and you've got to be able to support your team around that mindset as well. Because if you're a leader in the environment at the moment, and I walk into your business and start talking to your people and say, tell me what the vision is at the moment. What's our target? Where are we going? I tell you what, many of the businesses I'm going in don't have that clarity. And that's a concern when you look at what we're having to cope with at the moment.
and people are a little bit tired.
Yep.
And so if, 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row or weeks on end, every time they get into work, the plan's changed or things are shifted. Oh, we're doing something different now. Like they've just spent the whole night laying awake, getting their head around yesterday's plan.
Yeah.
And now they get in there in the morning, they're all ready to go. Right, I'm back. I'm in this. I can do this. I can see it now. And change brings churn, and churn takes energy, wears people down. If they're turning up to work every morning and all you're serving them is churn, because the strategy's not clear or the plan's not clear, oh my God, they're going to get so tired and they're going to walk. They'll walk.
100%.
They'll walk. So you don't want that. And it also happens with yourself, right? You can wear yourself out if you continually second guess. Write a clear plan, see it through to the end, right? See what action, and then reassess, then write up a new plan. What would you say, Darren? 4-week plan, monthly basis?
Yeah. Just at the moment, do it monthly, right? Just do a really clear monthly plan and just go, hey, this is the things that I want to get completed by the end of the month. I do also make sure that my teams have a pretty clear plan on their annual. So what their annual plan is. Why? Because it helps you get out of the rocky road in between, right? Because if you have a good month or a shit month, your annual plan kind of helps you get through that because it averages it out over 12 months. So I just go, really have good clarity, and as we're saying there, just make sure you've got that clarity of plan. But the big part is to make sure you've got the 12 months, and that just means that you know exactly what you're needing to be doing.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. And we're moving on to the third one, and we are both big proponents of this. Probably you more than me, but you are a big proponent of this, and I'm buying into it because it works. It's the only thing that works. And I deal with clients all the time who buy into everything that I say and how I tell them and the results that it brings. But without action, it all amounts to what?
Nothing. Talk. Waste of time. And at the end of the day, even if it's half-assed action, it'll be better to get you a better result than sitting in the office dreaming about your plans all day. You got to create stuff that changes, moves, and takes your business forward. That's the whole part that we've got to keep working on, is creating that sense of action all the time. Every day.
Yeah, so if you're struggling, go back, build an audience. That's action. Well, put yourself out there.
Get face-to-face with more people. Get some clarity about your offer and how it supports your customers. Make sure that you've got a good mindset about you've got that plan in place. Yep. These are cool things right now that you go out and talk to these business owners and many self-employed business owners at the moment who are challenged by the current environment. Go through that list, and most of them aren't anywhere near them. And that, I'm sure, is what's causing the mental challenge, I would say, mental anguish, and also inaction.
That's it, right? So the only thing that inaction creates is tears. That's it.
Yeah.
You'll wake up and you'll get caught in this funk. You'll be so focused on beating yourself up because you didn't take action yesterday. You've wasted your time. Look, I've been through it. I was going through it last week. The toys were getting put out of the cot, and for no reason.
Yeah.
I'm having great months, but I just had a bump.
Yeah.
Just had a bump. And then, one day bump turns into the next day, oh, I'm down on myself because I didn't do it. And then you waste that day because you're down on yourself. And then the only thing that gets you out of these funks and this pressure and this stress is action. Because at least at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, and very rarely does it not work, as long as you take action and have a go, you can at least hang your hat on the fact as I gave it a crack.
Hey,
what I learned.
Look, seriously, if you do some action and it doesn't work, that's great learning, right? It's not about whether it succeeded or failed. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about, did you learn anything? If you've learned something, fantastic. You're better than you were yesterday. Let's keep going.
I agree. It's fantastic. It's been another great episode, Darren. It's been too long between them, but make sure you can listen to this. The Blink, BL-INK is how you have to search on the app stores, all the app stores, Spotify, Apple, Google, where all great podcasts are, BL-INK. But if you're listening to this, you've probably already found it, to be honest. So anyway, for those who may be watching on YouTube, I do have one little bit of a reveal, Darren. You know I love surprises.
Yeah, okay, here we go.
And I've got one for you. You know that you were very critical of me early on in the episodes when I came out and I had that cardboard pen. Remember that? I had the cardboard pen. You're like, how do you have a cardboard pen?
Yes, I
Like,
remember.
nah, you got to get yourself a nice pen. It's,
Get yourself a decent pen, man.
yeah.
Stop it.
Look what's happened.
Oh my God.
Look who's become a big boy.
Holy smoke, mate. You that's it.
Look at this. Are you proud of me? Look at this. It's a thing of beauty.
That's a real one.
That's a nice pen. Feels nice and weighty in my hand. I feel like I'm doing serious big boy business when I'm using it. And you know what? It's the little things like this. It's the little things like this that can get you out of your midwinter blues. You know, spoil yourself. Be the CEO with a CEO pen. Don't just use ones you've picked up at dodgy hotels made of cardboard or promotional pens. I love a good promotional pen, but they never last. So now I'm enjoying life with a great pen.
I'm proud of you.
Cheers, mate. It's been awesome. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube. And of course, if you've got any questions, just hit us up on our socials. We are very easy to find, and we are very open to answering your questions.
Love it. Thanks, mate. Real good to see you, and we'll catch you all later on. See you soon.
Peace.